Hey guys, it's V2 Vengeance, and today we are comparing the two of the three Russian tier 10 medium tanks. The T62A here on the right, and on the left we have the Object 140. Now to confuse you, I'm going to switch the T62A to the left. Whatever, I'm going to look them from the way up, so the text on the screen is going to appear a lot easier. So let's get to the stats. So starting with the T62A on the bottom, it's got 1950 health points, 50 more than the Object 140 that has 1900. Now this 50 health points difference may not seem like a big deal, but later in this video you're going to see that sometimes that thing is going to be the difference between life and death. Now the turret armor on the T62A is 240mm at the front, 161 at the sides and 65 at the rear, and the hull armor is 102mm at the front, 75 at the sides and 45 at the rear. The view range of the tank is at 400 meters and the signal range is at 800, not 1800, because that would be too OP. 850 meters, the same as on the Object 140, so they both have the same view range and signal range. And looking at the armor on the Object 140, we can see that it's got on the turret 240mm at the front, 187 at the sides and 65 at the rear, and the hull has 100mm at the front, 80 at the sides and 55 at the rear. Now the hull has some very small differences in the armor at the sides and rear, but those differences are so small that you're never going to see them. Now the interesting thing on those both tanks is the turret. This is mainly one of their strong points, along with the gun and mobility. And if you look at the armors of the two tanks, we can see that they are pretty similar. And if we also take a look at the profiles of the tanks, you're going to see that actually the Object 140 is very slightly lower than the T62A. You're going to see that better when we're going to check the gun depressions of both two tanks. And even though they have pretty much the same turret armor, the T62A has a huge advantage, and that is the lack of weak points. But we'll get to that later when we check weak points. So now that we've checked the main stats, let's get to some mobility. So let's see. Numbers appearing on the screen again. And let's see which tank rolls quicker. In fact, we should know from looking at the numbers, but let's see in theory how much faster does that mean. So you're able to see that the T62A, even though it has only 2 degrees of hull traverse speed more, it still was able to rotate pretty quickly. And now let's take a look at the turrets. And actually the difference between the turrets is a lot bigger than the difference between hulls. Now you can see, even though I started very little before the Object 140, I was still able to get a very big advantage. And so you were able to see that from looking at the stats, only the T62A appears to be the better brawling tank, and actually it is, and this is the thing about them. The Object 140 is a very good tank for brawling, but the T62A is the best tank in the game for brawling. In my opinion, I think this is because it has a very low profile, extremely strong frontal turret, and very high DBM gun. And the fact that it's very mobile. So basically, the T62A, as far as stats go, it has very little thicker turret armor, and it has better mobility. Now the Object 140 hasn't got bad mobility by any means. It is actually a very mobile tank, but the T62A is slightly more mobile than that. Now we're going to do a drag race. So the T62A, again, numbers appearing on the screen. They have basically the same power to weight ratio, but the Object 140 has a better top speed. So let's see. 3, 2, 1. Close enough. So you can see that at first, because the T62A has better terrain resistance, it gets forward faster, but as soon as it gets to its top speed, the object 140 goes forward. So we're able to see that in the first maybe 5 to 6 seconds the T62A is faster, but as far as when it reached its top speed, that object 140 is faster. So yeah, so now let's take a look at some weak points. Okay, so here we are at the weak points testing area. So first of all, we're going to see the weak points on the object 140, and that is one commander's hatch here, another commander's hatch here. Actually, one of them is the commander and the other one might be a, I don't know what, maybe a radio operator, I have no idea. But the main thing is those two are weak points. Also, basically those tanks don't really have a stronghold at all. Most of the tanks, in fact all the tanks except light tanks that they're going to face, and even most of the light tanks will be able to penetrate the front of their hull. The front of the hull on the other hand is strong enough to withstand high explosive shells, but they're still going to do damage, but not the full damage that they usually do. So at least it does that. But as I said before, the main strong ports, strong size, strong points of those tanks are the fronts of the turrets. So, and another weak point that I didn't really know about recently, Serge taught me about it, be all this area here, the upper part of the turret. That is a weak point. So let's take a look. Firstly, we have the commander's hatch, the lower plate, the upper plate. I shot it 2 times because I wanted to see if the object 140 has any damage, engine damage at the front, and apparently it hasn't. On the other hand, the T62A, as you're going to see on one of the sides, you can damage its how do you call them, fuel tanks, and if you get a lucky shot you can actually put him on fire. So let's see. Changing to the other perspective, we have the T62A. The T62A hasn't got those much weak points on the turret. It actually has only one weak point overall, and this is this commander's hatch here. But this thing also is a lot harder to see. So basically, if you're aiming at the T62A from this angle, you can see that it's very hard to hit, even from the front. There is a very little part, only this bit here is penetrable, the other side is not. While on the object 140, because the turret is slightly lower, those are much more exposed. So as you're going to see from this point of view, even though they have pretty similar turret armor, in reality the turret armor on the T62A, because of the lack of weak points, is better, and it can make sometimes a very big difference. I've been in situations where I was face hacked by object 140, and I was able to do, in the 100 I was able to do shots in the upper part of his turret and penetrate every single time. On the other hand, when I was circling around by T62A and I was able to, let's say, get a clear shot into his turret, even with hit I wasn't really able to do anything to him. So from that point of view, the T62A stands a lot better, even though on paper they have pretty similar turrets. So let's see the weak points of the T62A in action, so to say. So as I said, this thing here, and basically other than that there isn't really anything else, except the hull, of course, which is weak like the object 140s. So you can see there, and those are the fuel tanks. So in this half of the tank we have the fuel tanks, which might make the tank go on fire. And also, as you can see, even though it looks like it penetrated, it only looked like it penetrated because it hit the viewport. So yeah, that's World of Tanks model. So other than this, there isn't really any weak spot on the tank. Also, this bit here can be penetrated, as you can see. And we're going to see the last weak spot of the object 140. As you can see, the top of the tank, if we aim at that, boom, headshot. So those were of the weak points of the two tanks. Quick recap: Object 140 both commander's hatches and the upper side of the turret. On the T62A we have only the commander's hatch, and this is one of the reasons why I prefer personally the T62A over the Object 140. It has better mobility and better turret armor, and the Object 140 also has its advantages: better top speed and better gun depression. So let's get to the gun depression and see some actual difference. Okay, so here we can see the difference of gun depressions. The T62A has really about 2 degrees of gun depression, or maybe 3, and on the other hand you can see on the Object 140 that extra degree of gun depression you can actually notice. So that does a difference. It gives you a little bit of extra flexibility, and that is always useful. So let's see, this is on the front. Let's see, comparing on the sides of the turrets. Come on guys, turn your turrets. There we go. So this is on the sides of the turret. As you can see, again, that extra gun depression, extra degree of gun depression of the Object 140 is noticeable. And let's see some rear gun depression. So on the other hand, on the back, the T62A appears like it has slightly better gun depression, probably because the gun on the Object 140 is mounted lower than on the T62A. This means that probably they don't really have a degree of difference. It's slightly less than that, like half a degree, because as you can see on the Object 140 you have almost inexistent gun depression, while on the T62A you can observe a very little difference. At least this is what I see. So those were the full stats: health, armor, weak points, and mobility, and gun depression. So let's see some 1v1ing, and also you're going to see why that extra 50 health points of the T62A can make a difference sometimes. Okay, so 1v1ing in those tanks is really about who gets the first shot. Actually, that's not entirely true, and you're going to see right now why. Basically, even though you get first shot in the T62A, if you're fighting against an Object 140, you're still going to win. And let's see actually why. So if we both aim at each other, doesn't really matter where, as long as it's the frontal hole, and we both start firing in the exact same time, let's see who wins. So the damage per minute is the same. Now we're going to see that extra 50 health that the T62A has, how it's going to save your life. So preparing for combat. We are probably counting to start fighting at the exact same time, and let's see. 1 shot, 2 shots, 3 shots. Also you can notice a very good DPM of those things. 320 average damage, and pretty much. Let's see who wins the first, and I got the last shot. So you were able to see that even though if we started in the same time, right now I was left with 414 HP. This is very important. Let's say he shot very little before me, so if he was able to shoot right now the last shot before me, like he had 320, I had 414, and he shot me once. What happened is that there is no chance I would have died, only if he set me on fire, so we're not going to count that. What happens is that the average damage of this gun is 320, which means that in order to kill me he needed a roll of 414, and the maximum roll a gun with 320 damage is 400, which is less than what I have, so there is absolutely no chance. Basically 0 out of 10 chances he was able to win this 1v1 fight as far as damage per minute goes, because of that extra 50 health points. So those were the 2 tanks you were able to see. As I said, I'm the 1v1 ingredient. I must confess I did the 1v1 and I lost because I was a noob and I missed 2 times, and I'm not going to embarrass myself showing that. But on the other hand, the T62A and the Object 140, even though they are very close tanks, they all are unique in their own way. The T62A is better for brawling than the Object 140. So if you're looking for a tank exclusively for brawling, take the T62A. If you're looking with a tank that has slightly more flexibility due to that extra top speed and degree of gun depression, take the Object 140. Now, even though I said the T62A is less flexible than the Object 140, the difference is extremely small. As well as that also goes for brawling, but in my personal opinion, due to the lack of those weak points on the top of the tank, I'm going to choose that is less flexible. That doesn't mean it's not flexible. It's only 1 degree of gun depression and 5 km/h top speed. So they are both extremely similar tanks. It's like the difference between the Object 140 and the T62A as far as brawling goes. That same difference is about the flexibility. So it's all about the taste, choosing what tank you like. I choose the T62A over the 140 simply because of the lack of those weak points on the turret. It's really nice to think that you are in a hold down position and there is really nothing that can penetrate you except Jackman 100 firing premium ammunition. It can't be said that when you're driving the Object 140. So yeah, I have to confess, I did a 1v1. I don't know if I said this again, but I want to make sure I say it because it's true. So I did a 1v1 against Sergio in a normal fight and I lost because I missed my first shot. He was able to fire first, and after that I missed another shot, and that really sealed my fate, and I don't really want to embarrass myself showing that. And I think this is good enough. I mean, not good enough, this is what you need to know, because in that 1v1 it's all about the skill and the noobness and the fact that, you know, you want to win and you rush your shots and you miss, and that means you lose. And it's not about the tanks. This is what I'm trying to say. It's not about the tanks, it's about the driver. So choosing between the two tanks, it's basically everything about preferential, what you like more, being slightly better for brawling or have slightly better flexibility. It's all about you. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please think about rating it. Don't forget that I have a charity going on. I'd like to help some children this Christmas. Right now I haven't really received much, $5 if you can call that anything. Thank you very much to the guy who donated, but if I don't get more than 50 by tomorrow, let's say 24 hours from the time I post this video, I'm going to stop that charity, because really it's pretty clear it's going nowhere. But the thing is, I'm still going to donate that money, but you know, it's not going anywhere. So I'll just post links to the normal wargaming charity for people that are in countries that are involved in some wars and need help. So there's that. Those are my 2 cents on those 2 tanks. So thanks for watching, guys. Again, I hope you enjoyed, and don't forget to subscribe if you're not already and if you like what you're seeing. See ya later.